SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biztalk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biztalk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biztalk on WHBY.
Good morning and welcome to Biztalk with SCORE. I'm Rick Sense along with Terry Pinch this week, and we are going to get into our exciting show. But I have to ask Terry, we're getting pretty late in the season here now. Any chance you've been biking at all yet?
Oh, no. Once it gets below 65, it's questionable. You get into the 50s, and I'm just not bundling. I can ride my exercise bike in the basement. So I walk and ride the exercise bike. In fact, this weekend, I think the bike's going into the basement for the winter storage.
Always a sad thing. No biking today. The three saddest words in the English language. But
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our guest today, Abe Weber, who is the director at the Appleton International Airport. Has been in his role since 2013. And he has done, from my perception, a phenomenal job with the role. I remember Appleton having a sleepy little airport when I was a kid, and it's kind of grown a little bit beyond the sleepy stage. So looking forward to hearing more about that from Abe. So welcome to the show, Abe.
Hey, Rick and Terry. Thank you guys for having me on. Very excited to talk to you about all things Appleton Airport.
So I'm going to start off with two real quick, obvious questions. Okay, the nickname or actually code name, whatever you want to call it, or the called name for the airport is ATW. What the heck does ATW stand for?
So, that is our designation provided to us from the FAA. So, when they were coming through and establishing airport codes, my assumption is they found Appletown and they shrunk it down to ATW, and that's what we are left with today.
Okay, so ATW, and for expediting the program, I might call it ATW from time to time, because Appleton International Airport sometimes just a little long when you're right in the middle of a sentence. So with that, if you would take a moment, Abe, to just kind of give listeners your background. What exactly is the airport director responsible for out at Appleton International Airport?
So I think my role kind of has a couple of different facets. The first I think about is team building and making sure our team is growing and developing. They have the resources they need to be successful. So I take a lot of pride in that. I think we have a phenomenal team here at the airport. The second I talk about airport development and or community development, right? Wanting to make sure that the community understands the importance of our airport. We certainly work with all of our tenants outside of that, whether that be in Appleton or outside of Appleton for business development. And then I think probably the last piece is probably resource acquisition. As you can imagine, it takes a lot of resources to grow and develop the airport and keep us humming. And that could come in the way of funding opportunities or grants. But we're constantly out there trying to seek resources to, better our airport, allow us to grow, allow us to develop, looking for new programs, projects, what have you.
Now, you've been with the airport since before 2013, if I remember correctly. You actually had the deputy position, if that's correct. Could you maybe give listeners a little background of what you experienced before being the director?
Yeah, certainly. So this is actually probably the start of my 21st year at the airport. If you can believe it, I started here back in 2005, May of 2005, as an airport intern, which I think is funny, Rick, because, I was doing a little bit of everything back then. I think I subbed as a second shift custodian. I was helping, sweep up and clean up some FOD on the runways. And through those years, I've just progressed as a custodial and maintenance supervisor to landside supervisor, then operations and maintenance manager, and kind of worked my way up to the airport director. So I've had this amazing opportunity to kind of learn several different positions here, see the airport operate from the ground up, and it's really provided an awesome perspective for me now, and I've really enjoyed my time here.
So you've had that unique experience that not many people get in life, where you actually get to grow up with the business, so to speak. You know the ins and outs of everything that you need to know and understand about the airport. How has that really benefited your career path to date, do you think?
Well, outside of just the fact that I really have enjoyed it and enjoyed my time in growing up in this community, and I arrived here, I think I was 22 years old, right out of college, really didn't know, what I wanted to be or how I was going to grow up. So I've planted some roots here and captured or really worked, alongside of the community to develop this airport. I think it's helped ground me a little bit. I've certainly seen, what our staff, some of their challenges are. So hopefully I'm a little bit more knowledgeable of some of their hardships they may face as they try to grow and develop and solve problems at the airport. I want to make sure that I'm always open to listen to their needs and, just help them wherever they may need it.
So I mentioned it during the introduction. There's been some real growth there at the airport, and you've experienced it firsthand. You've lived it as you've been there for 20 plus years now. Could you maybe give listeners just an idea of how big the airport is now compared to when you first started, if you can remember back that far? I know I can't remember back that far someday, so hopefully you can because you're younger than me. So.
Yeah. When I first started here, I think we were around 225,000 enplanements, 7 nonstop destinations, so this year we have 22 nonstop destinations. We'll probably finish 2025 with close to 620,000 enplanements or, close to 1.2 million passengers. So we've almost tripled our passengers, almost, certainly more than triple our nonstop destinations. You look at some of the businesses that have grown and developed here. Some of that activity has doubled, if not tripled. So we've seen tremendous growth across several facets, not just commercial air service, but all things that have kind of grown and developed along the way here at Appleton Airport.
I know you're being modest because you're the third fastest growing, or you're the third largest airport in the state of Wisconsin. You're the fastest growing airport in the state of Wisconsin. Can you maybe give listeners a little bit of understanding of some of the metrics that your industry is using so they understand what those numbers might mean?
Yeah, I think there's a plethora of metrics that we look at internally in across the industry, everything from parking statistics, ground transportation, checked luggage, or aircraft arrival time, departure time, taxi in time, taxi out time, passengers leaving, passengers arriving. But I would say some of the top metrics we look at is enplanements, deplanements, total passengers to kind of rank airports and their growth. And we've been doing a pretty great job here at Appleton. And a lot of that, Rick, really has been the support of our community, right? When we install a new flight, when we work with our air carriers to add a new route or increase the size of an airplane, the community has supported us by filling that airplane, which shows, the airlines that they made a good investment and they should do it again. So, I often say, as we grow, as our community supports Appleton Airport, we will continue to grow.
So how is the airport actually governed? How does it operate? What's the structure behind the airport? Obviously, it's an adjunct to the government, but maybe you can give listeners more details on that.
Yeah, so we are a department of Outagamie County, right? So I report to County Executive Tom Nelson, and I also report to a member or a committee of the Outagamie County Board of Supervisors. There's a property, an airport recreation economic development committee that I report to, twice monthly. And then for large scale items, oftentimes going to the board a couple times a year. But just like the other 30 departments at the county, we are, governed by the county executive and the county board. I would say, though, we are an enterprise fund, meaning we're effectively self-sustaining, self-sufficient. We are off the county tax rolls. We generate our own revenue. We operate very much like a business would, and we have to do that, right? With I would say very innovative or entrepreneurial spirit here at the airport to help us grow and develop and meet the customer needs along the way.
And part of that is keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, keeping up with what other airports are doing. Can you maybe just, I mean, I've been out there lately. I think it's about a month and a half ago now that I was out there, and it's just amazing since the mid 2010s and how much different the airport is now compared to then even. And just a lot of excitement happening out there. Would you give listeners a little bit of, background on some of the things that have been changed recently and what they might expect if they haven't been there for a few years?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of construction ongoing right now. Some of it is coming to completion, certainly as this year kind of wraps up, which is great, right? Less orange barrels out here, the better. But I would say it really goes back to several years ago, Rick, when we recognized that, there were a lot of passengers in our community that would get in a car and drive 2 hours, 3 hours down the road because they felt like they had to get quality air service that, at a cheaper price or, better connectivity to the global network. And we worked really hard with our local businesses, our local economic development organizations to understand what our community needs were, so that when we approached the airlines, we could put routes, flights, increased service in that met our community need. And as we've been able to grow, we've been able to pull, those and get them back into Appleton Airport. And because of that increased consumer demand, we've had to expand. We've looked at growing our parking, which we have, and we've offered some very innovative parking programs with our Express Park. We've just recently completed a front drive lane expansion, increasing probably 50%, if not greater, our front drive lane capacity. We're underway on a rather large scale concourse expansion. We're going from about 6 passenger boarding gates up to 10 passenger boarding gates, and we're installing some technology within each one of those gates that makes them a little bit more efficient in and of themselves. So we expect we can continue our growth trajectory and still have adequate gate space. So there's a number of things ongoing out at the airport, and we have several plans for growth and development and how to address the customer journey and make the customer journey easier through Appleton Airport with future projects.
One of the things that I think are the most exciting is the beer garden.
Yes, I think a lot of people are really enjoying that, Rick.
Yeah, could you talk about that before our break here?
Yeah, absolutely. So, partnering with local vendors is something that we really wanted to do. We've been able to partner with the Soup League Group, with Fratello's, and then on came this beer garden that provides, local brews as well as some brewery, and beers from around the country. But we wanted to certainly have a local mix in our airport, and partnering local, just kind of underscores the idea that we're your hometown airport. We want you to fly local. We should also be partnering local to provide that great taste of Northeast Wisconsin.
What kind of reaction have you gotten from travelers from like Atlanta or Dallas or other places? Has anybody gone out of the way to mention it to you about the beer garden?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the reaction, as you can imagine, is wow. Just that wow, that surprise, that delight from customers. Not expecting such a beautiful airport and an easy, friendly airport. And then the beer garden, is kind of a similar surprise and delight where people say, wow, that's a fun amenity to have inside an airport. And, travel should be fun. We should have fun at our job. And I think our team is very excited about the reactions that we're receiving.
Okay. We've reached the point for our first break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score and WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense along with Terry Pinch this week, and we are talking with Abe Weber, who is director of the Appleton International Airport, or ATW, for those of you that fly a lot. And it's been a real good conversation, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. But I'd like to take just a moment to talk to you about SCORE. SCORE Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in Northeast Wisconsin that also includes the county of Menominee in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, human resources, retail best practices, and many, many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. Biztalk with SCORE brings you expert advice, impactful stories, and real-world insights from experienced entrepreneurs and business leaders. So listen and follow today, available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to check out Biztalk with SCORE through your favorite podcatcher or podcast application. So with that, I'm going to turn the show back over to you, Terry.
Okay, and we're again talking to Abe Weber, the director of the ATW, the Appleton International Airport. And Abe, let's talk a little bit more about how airports are funded, because I don't think many people know that.
Yeah, so Appleton Airport, commercial service airport, very similar to, the 400 other public use airports that are commercial service in the United States. We're self-funded. We establish our rates and charges, to ensure that we generate our own revenue. We remain, self-sufficient off of the Outagamie County tax levy. Doesn't mean that the county has not, invested in the airport, historically. They have, but, by and large, since, 1991, the airport has been off of that county tax levy. And we do that through, air service development, business development, working with our FBO Appleton Flight Center to generate more, business, more revenue. So we are, laser focused and always looking at how we can, generate more revenue, and the revenue we do generate gets reinvested right back into the airport, to better serve our community. So, that's kind of how we're funded and how we think about, our airport as a business. It's always thought about how do we support the community? When we invest in something, how is this better going to serve the community?
And so a lot of us think, as we think about an airport, we think about the commercial flying. But what about either the freight or the private jets and private planes as well? Are they important to the airport for income as well?
Absolutely. It's a big puzzle piece, as you can imagine, Terry. We're looking at diversifying our revenue all the time, right? You can't solely be focused on just commercial passenger revenue. You've seen throughout, years, whether it be the COVID or, some other, financial recession, things go up, things go down. And, to diversify ourselves, we have invested in, our FBO and the general aviation traffic by, building some hangars, working to secure more aircraft, on the airfield. We've gotten ourselves into, the fueling side of the business. So now we're providing fuel to our customers here. So there's been a number of different things that we've done, on the service side. And then, as far as infrastructure to grow and develop the FBO to make it a very strong revenue generator for our airport.
And as far as revenue from other sources, is there an industry around the airport as well that is a part of paying fees to the airport?
Yeah, there certainly is. And when you think of just the general economic impact of the airport, it's much more than just what goes on here, right? There's a whole ground transportation segment that operates to and from the airport. The hotel industry that picks up and from our doorstep and then welcomes business travelers into the community, and certainly the restaurant side, the food and beverage side, that we also help support throughout the community. So there's a lot of facets to this airport that, come together to make the whole.
As we wrap up this segment a little bit, one thing that I saw on your website and actually saw when I was there, or heard of when I was there a few weeks ago, was the new or relatively new express offering that is there for frequent flyers. And we all know how important those frequent customers are. So if you can talk a little bit about that program and how it helps the airport.
Absolutely. Now, I would say the express programs is an initiative that we've put in place through, years of planning and development. Our local community is 23% manufacturing, right? So there's a tremendous amount of opportunities for us to learn through that manufacturing, how our manufacturers have gotten leaner, more efficient. And several of our staff members, myself included, have gone out and got lean certification. And really what that means to us is we look at, this manufacturing process. We almost look like our customer journey is the manufacturing process. So we take that customer journey from when they arrive on airport, if they go into parking, if they come to the front curb, to the ticket counter, to the checkpoint. We try to break that into segments, remove the stress, remove the anxiety points or the hassle, so that when we put that process, that customer journey back together, it's just faster, easier, and more convenient. And some of the things that have come out from that process is, the express park, where you can park on the front curb, and walk your luggage and your keys inside and drop them off, and your car will be moved for you. It's the express bags, right? So you can drop your bags off and your keys at the same time and head right to the checkpoint. It's working with the TSA to make our checkpoint lines faster and more efficient. So there's a number of new programs or express programs that we've been able to come out with that have really been rooted in our ability to try to take that customer journey and just make it more efficient.
Okay, great. It's time for our second break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we're talking to Abe Weber from the Appleton International Airport, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score. This week, Rick Sense and I are talking to Abe Weber, the director of the Appleton International Airport, or ATW, as many of you know it. Before we get back to Abe, want to give you a quick update on some educational opportunities. If you go to our SCORE website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, and you'll see at the top there's a tab for workshops and events. And there's a couple coming up that I just want to mention and also use it as an opportunity to explain our new approach for education. But we offer literally thousands of webinars, and many of those are free. Some of the older ones and that, but given the change in government funding, we raise much of our own money now. And so we do charge for some of these educational programs very minimal fees, but there's two that are coming up that I'll mention that are pretty good programs you might want to consider. The first is called Turn Your Expertise into Income, Packaging and Pricing Your Digital Products for Maximum Profit. So that's for people looking at selling services on the web. It's November 4th at 12 o'clock, and there's a $15 fee. The other one is on November 6th at 12 o'clock, and it's Turn Social Media into Revenue. Again, a $15 fee, so small, but helping us as the SCORE National to raise money to offset our costs. But if you go again to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, you'll see those opportunities that really look at how you, in a digital age, do you start to use some of the tools that are available to raise more money for your business. And it's very important topics for small businesses. So again, small fees of $15 for each of those, but there's many that are out there free as well. So go take a look at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And with that, we're going to turn back to Abe Weber. And Abe, let's start this segment talking a little bit about some of the special events and community outreach programs that you do as ATW.
Absolutely. Thank you, Terry. I think there's a couple of really great programs that our airport has really joined forces with that are just incredible for the community. The first is the Old Glory Honor Flight Network, really sending our veterans, our heroes, out to their monument in Washington, D.C. We host, 4 events from our airport each year. and then one typically during EAA takes off from Oshkosh. But just an incredible organization. We just had one here a couple of days ago in our terminal. 1,500 people come out to welcome the veterans home. They're clapping, cheering. There's a big band playing. I don't think there's a dry eye in the crowd. Welcome these veterans home. So that's an incredible organization that we love to partner with. We also every year do a fundraiser for them called Pulling for Honor, where we ask the community, get you and 20 of your friends together and come out to the airport and try to pull a 757 aircraft, and try to raise some money for the Old Glory Honor Flight Network. I'd say we also have a great partnership with the autism advocacy groups in the community. We host a Wings for Autism program, which allows individuals on the autism spectrum to come out to the airport and really get into kind of a simulated airport experience. They go through the ticket counter, the checkpoint, they board an airplane, they go through the boarding announcements on the airplane, they deplane, go to baggage claim, and they really get a sense of whether or not their son, their daughter, their loved one can go through the airport experience and all of the different noises and sounds and requirements that come with it. And those events have been very, very successful. And the last one I'll touch on is the Make-A-Wish Network. We say that we're strong supporter of the network. We help with the logistics, making sure that we line up the airline and the TSA and making sure that these individuals have a very easy passage through the airport when they go to take a trip. And we see, a dozen, maybe up to 20 flights every single year. They're a big deal. A lot of times that family's traveling with complex medical equipment. A lot of times they haven't traveled for quite a while. So we really make sure that we can pair them up with someone from the TSA that's very knowledgeable, with the airline that's very knowledgeable, and just make sure that they have an incredible experience as they come through the airport. So those are some of the organizations and community outreach that we really are very excited about from the airport to help and be part of.
I've noticed, Abe, driving to Milwaukee the last couple of times, I see a billboard, and it happens to have ATW all over it. Could you maybe talk to listeners about that, and then maybe use that as a way to dovetail into the kind of the marketing, the unique marketing that the airport's been doing over these years?
Well, Rick, I talked on previous, questions here about how we've been trying to pull people back from the road and show them that, they can connect anywhere in the world through Appleton Airport. And I know that billboard down there south of us that says something to the effect of "you could be home by now had you flown out of Appleton Airport" is a fun reminder that, you don't have to drive 2 and 3 hours away to get where you need to go. And door to door, our time savings might be better through Appleton Airport. But that's a big part of our marketing program, right, is to remind people that at least check Appleton Airport first. We understand that people, might choose to drive, right? If they want a lower airfare, if they want a nonstop flight, or, the schedule works out a little better. But, with the additions and routes and flights, we've become very, very comparable. And so, dovetailing that into our marketing program, one thing that I think we try to set out to do is just make people aware of, who we are and what we have to offer. And then on the back end, we want to have fun, right? Travel should be fun. If you're going on an adventure, if you're going to the beach, you're going on a leisure vacation, that should be fun. And the airport should provide that access between road and airplane, or that should just be that transition period before getting to your destination. And, if you're going on a business trip, it should be exciting, right? You should be, excited to go meet with your client and address their needs, or prepare for that big sale, or, whatever your business line is. It should be something that should be fun and you should be passionate about. So we like to instill our passion and our fun and our ideas of travel into our marketing. And I think we have a phenomenal marketing team, gals that are very passionate about it. And you can see on the social channels and our outdoor stuff that it really does shine through, that they love working for the airport, and it's a great place to be.
You maybe just give listeners a sneak peek into why an ice cream truck.
Well, that's something that's been going on for, probably close to 10 years. I think the ice cream truck, when it first started out, our goal was to get out and talk to businesses in the community and understand their travel stories. And we found that, pulling up to their headquarters with, some 30-cent pieces of ice cream 10 years ago, we could really understand, where are they traveling to? Why were they traveling there? But more importantly, if they weren't traveling out of Appleton Airport, why? What did they not like about the airport, right? Those were the real learnings that we were coming to understand when we were taking that ice cream truck. And it's evolved over the years, but I would say that by and large, we're still hitting 35, 40 different businesses every single summer with that ice cream truck. It's true to our mission, but it has allowed us to get out to the community and understand what their needs are and have fun with the community at the same time. So it might, on its surface, seem a little disconnected from the airport, but it has been an incredible tool for us to keep, our finger on or the pulse of what does our community need for air service.
And how would you describe the average user of ATW? I mean, or maybe what makes up your clientele maybe is a better question. Could you maybe walk listeners through that?
Yeah, I would say there's probably two main groups. If there's clearly the leisure traveler that's taking advantage all of the new routes that Allegiant offers, as well as Sun Country coming on board with their flights to Fort Myers, and then also the connection with Caesars Rewards Air. So someone that's getting out looking for that relaxation trip to the beach or to that warm weather destination. We have several destinations in Florida and Phoenix, Las Vegas. And then there's the adventurer that's probably going out to have a little bit of fun, that's taking advantage of some of our routes to New York or Portland or Nashville, Savannah, some of those secondary routes that aren't, always considered with the warm weather. And then the other large group that we have is the business travel, right? We have a tremendous amount of business travelers that come through our airport. This could be service technicians. This could be people that are going out on sales, vendors coming in and out. With the amount of manufacturing that we see here in our community, we see a lot of consultants in finance, insurance, real estate coming to meet with our businesses. So those are people that time is everything. So when we talk about making Appleton faster, easier, more convenient, it's laser focused at making sure that their passage through this airport is almost flawless, right? That they don't even have to think about the airport when they're arriving and departing. So that's who we like to think about when we work on our programs, our processes, from curb to gate of this airport.
Now, the footprint of the airport is an interesting in how it's changed over the years. Some of the things as far as community involvement and partnerships, you have the partnership with Fox Valley Technical College out there. And maybe just spend a minute or so talking about that. But in addition to that, then there's Gulfstream. And I remember, again, going back a little bit in my past, how Gulfstream was a player there for many years, but now they're such a dominant presence there. Maybe you can walk listeners through that experience and how they've gotten to the point where they are now and how that's impacted and benefits the airport and those of us living here in the Valley.
Yeah, I mean, Gulfstream is a phenomenal organization. They're wonderful people to deal with. Their headquarters is down in Savannah, Georgia, and they have a tremendous amount of presence here at Appleton Airport. I believe we're the second largest site outside of Savannah, and we've seen tremendous growth from Gulfstream over the last 7-8 years here with a large maintenance repair operation that they constructed in 2019. We partnered with them in 2021 to improve the completions facility on the north side of the airport, and then most recently the construction of their paint hanger facility. They've grown to probably 1,500 employees, and we're talking like really skilled tradespeople that are in and around the airport. And we see, their staff walking throughout the airport campus and just generates an incredible buzz. But you think about the impact on the community that such a wonderful organization has with not just the jobs, but, just some of the support that they provide out in the community in our technical colleges and in our high schools, showing that our local residents can have an incredible career right here in Appleton and work on some of the most technologically advanced, aircraft in the world right here. So, I've loved doing business with them. They are very easy, to work with. They probably make me look way better than what I deserve because, of their growth and development. But, we've really found a great partnership and partner in them. And it's been very helpful. As you noted, they do lease a tremendous amount of ground off of the airport. So that's, rates and charges and revenue that comes back to us. There's a number of buildings that they occupy and rent off of us. Again, revenue back to the airport that helps us kind of diversify our revenue away from just solely focused on commercial air service revenue.
And then there's the relationship.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
Then there's the relationship you have with FETC, the Fox Valley Technical College. Can you maybe give listeners an idea of what that entails? And I know you've recently partnered with Lawrence University as well for aviation classes. Could you maybe spend some time talking about that as well?
Yeah. So with the Fox Valley Technical College, back in 2012, they constructed, a public safety training center on the south side of the airport, 75 acres. So state-of-the-art facility. More recently, we've partnered together to construct a regional ARF training center. So every commercial service airport is required to have, aircraft rescue firefighters that are trained at a facility in the U.S. On a specialized facility, I should say. And we saw that there was one of these specialized facilities that was closing down in Duluth, Minnesota. Partnered with Fox Valley Technical College to go to the FAA and say, hey, listen, if you, give us some funding and build it here in Appleton, Fox Valley Technical College can run it. And we can attract firefighters from around, the globe right here into Appleton for training. That program has come to fruition. And, so they are an incredible partner on the airport as well. And then, kind of moving that into the Lawrence University. We've been working with them the last couple of years as an aviation camp, really just to get individuals in our community more interested in careers that aviation can have more than just the pilot and the mechanic that a lot of people think about. There's management, business development, there's aerospace engineering. So there's a plethora of different careers that we try to put in front of high school students and keep them interested in this industry.
As I look back, and I lived here for 2 years in the 90s, in 1993 and 94, and did a lot of flying then. And I can remember Midwest Express, Northwest Airlines, Wisconsin Air, Skyway Airlines, Max Air, a small airport with 3 or 4 gates, not a big area, close parking. The whole place has changed dramatically as you look over that 30 years. If you think about that and the changes continuing as you talk about all the things you're doing, how do you manage that change with your employees and make them a part of this and have them leading the efforts as well as being a part of it?
Absolutely. Something that we think about and talk about and work on almost daily, Terry. It all, and in my, philosophy is all comes down to kind of what is our mission? What is our core values? And what are we really here to do, right? We're here to support our community. So we have to understand what our community needs are and then be able to communicate to the staff, how are we going to go about doing that, right? We're going to look at, working with our airline partners to continue to grow the air service product. We're going to continue to work with our current airfield tenants, and then also look for new airfield tenants to bring online, to continue that business development growth on airport. And then with the FBO, very similar, working with corporate flight departments, internal or local and outside of our community to continue to generate growth and development from those aspects. But I say we spend a fair amount of time with our team internally talking about, our mission, our vision. How do we continue our growth aspirations here in Appleton? And, when you have an amazing team that's focused and passionate, I'd say it makes things much, much easier. And I think we have just that. We have some dedicated, passionate individuals that come to work every day thinking about how do we make the airport better as a whole? How do we make our customer processes and our programs better and through constant iteration and innovation, trying to better our product, I guess you'd say.
Excellent. We are at the point where we're going to take our final break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score and WHBY. I'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. I would like to thank our sponsors and donors. We couldn't present Biztalk without their generous support. Thank you to Haling & Associates. Haling & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for the future. Haling & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works to understand your goals and match the banking and wealth services needed to help you complete your mission. Thanks to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper contains relevant and useful information about the business community in the region. We would like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation to Biztalk and Score Northeast Wisconsin. And finally, thank you to New North, a regional marketing and economic development corporation, for their promotion of Score. The New North facilitates economic growth and helps people in this region live their best lives. And Rick, I'll turn it over to you for the rest of this episode.
Thanks, Terry. We're talking with Abe Weber this morning from ATW, Appleton International Airport. And Abe, I have to ask you, looking back at the totality of your life, what in it has shaped you to get you to the point where you are now, and that's going to carry you forward as you go forward in your role?
Well, I guess if we go way, way back, Rick, I'd probably have to say, I had still have some pretty amazing parents, right? That kind of nurtured us and grew us. I grew up, the youngest of 8 kids in a small rural farm community in Illinois. They taught us how to work and taught us great work ethic and how to treat people and how to be respectful. And, so that was a phenomenal foundation, to have growing up. And as I got my job here at Outagamie County Regional Airport at the time, it was a 3-month internship, and they never really let me get out of that, I guess I would have to say. So I've just really enjoyed my time here. And, a couple of things that I've found in this community is just the willingness for people to help out or to pitch in. And, there's never been a door shut in my face when I've come to somebody and asked for help. Or, I've found some tremendous mentors in this community that, if I have a problem or an idea that I want to share with them, they've been willing to sit down and listen and help and give advice. And that has just been so welcoming and warming. And, I feel like that has been a tremendous help for myself. And it's just been, part and parcel to why this airport has been so successful, is I think that's just been a piece of the community willing to help support something that's been growing and developing. And, for me, it's been a tremendous help, and certainly something that I've surely loved growing up here.
So I have to ask listeners again, Terry and I have the good fortune of being able to see our guest. And I can tell you that I think it's carrying through in his voice over the air too, as well, the passion and the excitement that Abe does have for the role. And I just have to ask you the question, Abe, are you having any fun?
I'll tell you, Rick, if I wasn't having fun, I'd probably go somewhere else, but I do love it here. Enjoy working at this airport. I often think, Rick, geez, what do people do that don't work at an airport? They just must have, such boring careers, but it is clearly a passion of mine. And I know that it's shared with several of my team members throughout the airport. And we get to look at really cool airplanes every single day, and we get to talk with great people, and we get to talk with our community members and figure out how we can help them and solve their problems through aviation. And why would we not want to do that? It's been a tremendous amount of fun. I've loved it. I don't know what I would do if I had to get out of this industry. I tell you, probably gonna have to drag me out of here at some point, I think.
Well, Abe, we hope that time doesn't come too soon. You're still pretty young. So, first of all, thank you for being on the show. You've been a great guest, and thank you for all you've done at Appleton Airport. People in this area should be really proud of what we have for an airport in this community. So with that, we'd like to wrap up this week's show. You've been listening to Biztalk with Score and WHBY, and you can also find us on your favorite podcatchers everywhere, like iTunes, Amazon, etc. So listen in again to previous shows or join in next week again in WHBY. Thank you and have a great week.